2 weeks ago, the United States officially recognized the legitimate government of Venezuela and its new president, Juan Guaido. We stand with the Venezuelan people in their noble quest for freedom, and we condemn the brutality of the Maduro regime, whose socialist policies have turned that nation from being the wealthiest in South America into a state of abject poverty and despair. Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free.
Landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This piece is twofold. The first is from Fox News, with a blatant attempt by Democrats to gerrymander districts with the help of friendly activist judges. This piece, as I say, is from Fox and Friends. It goes into great detail, the lengths to which they will stoop, and talking about liberal tricks. It's from Fox and Friends, May 7, but don't think that link is active at the moment. But we'll still put a link to it on our website, just in case. Here's the clip.
Meanwhile, sue until it's blue. Our next guest sounding the alarm on the left's judicial power grab, as some have described it, saying it's time for Republicans to wake up and see how unelected judges are redrawing maps to help elect more Democrats. Here to explain, Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin and national finance chairman for the Republican Redistricting Trust. Governor, good morning to you.
Good to be with you. Although I'm kind of bummed I'm not there to play with all that fun stuff you were just doing.
It's summer camp time. Go to camp, Governor. What does sue till it's blue mean?
Well, what you've got is Eric Holder, with the support of Barack Obama, spending hundreds of millions of dollars across the nation, and they just go in from one state after the next, and they sue until it's blue. They're using the litigation process to take redistricting out of the hands of the people we elect, the people we hold accountable in our state legislative bodies, and trying to send it to the courts where they have friendly folks, many of whom have been appointed by some of their allies, and they're trying to sue to change the makeup, really, I think for a generation to come in terms of putting Democrats in power.
All right, let's take a look at some headlines from the New York Times. Judges rule Michigan congressional districts are unconstitutionally gerrymandered. They also had Ohio congressional map is illegal gerrymander, federal court rules. Okay, so what happens is they start suing, and it's not necessarily a slam dunk that they're going to win, but it gets the ball moving, right?
Right. In the time being, right, you've got actions by the courts, and that's what they do. This is the whole strategy of the left, is to keep going till they find a friendly judge, someone who's not directly elected and accountable to the voters, and try and sue. They did it firsthand in Wisconsin. They tried to take over our Wisconsin Supreme Court. Thankfully, we fought back just about a month ago, but their strategy was last year, this year, and next year to take over the Wisconsin Supreme Court so they'd have a friendly activist majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They're doing it in Ohio, as you mentioned. They're doing it in Michigan. You already look, even in last year's elections, there's about 15 seats in 4 different states where they already used the litigation process to try and make it competitive. That's at least part of the reason why Nancy Pelosi is now the Speaker. They want to make her and people like her permanently in charge of the U.S. House. We can't let them do that. We've got to fight back for truly fair maps. If we've got fair maps, our ideas work. If we've got a competitive marketplace to tell our message to the American people, we can win district by district. But we can't do it if it's always stuck in the courts.
But, Governor, isn't it up to the state legislatures to figure out how to draw a district on the map?
Well, that's exactly right. That's the way most people want it. They want it with people who they elect who are accountable. What they do, though, is they go from state to state and they try and litigate. They sue, they pick a state, and then they sue until it's blue. And that's the strategy we've seen used over and over again. There's a lot of folks out there, unelected bureaucrats, these commissions they create, which are clearly partisan, where you put power in the hands of people who aren't elected. And then these judges, many of these federal judges who have lifetime appointments,
right,
and they love nothing more than to be activists out there. I appreciate the fact that the president tweeted about it, because I don't know that enough people understand just how significant this is. It's not just about the 2020 elections. It's about the fact that they could put in place maps across America that make it almost impossible for the next decade to win in these districts.
Right, and that's why you are the finance chairman for the National Republican Redistricting Trust. Former Governor Scott Walker, sir, thank you very much for joining us live today.
Thanks for having us on.
All right.
Now, the Democrats' redistricting tricks are only part of this piece to gain control of the states. The next bit I want you to listen to is a short extract from the Washington Examiner. It's from a piece called Inside Secret Republican Plot to Take Down Trump in 2020. That link will also be on my site. Here's just part of that piece. Renegade Republicans determined to eject President Trump from the White House in 2020 share a commitment to the cause, but are split on strategy and realistic about their long-term prospects. Former John McCain aides, members Evan McCullen's independent 2016 presidential campaign, disgruntled neocons, establishment GOPers, the only thing they agree on is the loathing of Trump. No primary challenger has yet come forward. John Kasich, a former Ohio governor, has said he couldn't beat Trump. Jeff Flake, who stepped down as a senator for Arizona when it became clear he would be beaten by pro-Trump forces in his primary, has taken himself out of the running. The brightest hope for them now is Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who last year became the first Republican governor to be re-elected in a deep blue state with a 13-point margin. 13 points. Mostly based in Washington, the Never Trump crowd comes in roughly 3 factions. First is those convinced fielding a primary challenger is the most viable game plan. Second is those inclined to back an independent candidate. A third group of advocates for unifying centre-left Democrat, similar to the sort of centrists who captured suburban Republican voters in the midterm elections. But the blocs are friendly, with some key operatives moving back and forth between them and willing to back whichever approach emerges as the most feasible. Meetings often hosted by Nishkahin centre a conservative think tank that has positioned itself as headquarters for Republicans opposed to Trump. Veteran Republican consultant Mike Murphy is among them. I'm talking to some never-Trumpers about an alert effort to make sure Republican regulars are paying attention they ought to, so that they are starting to think pragmatically about a wipeout in 2020 and what we ought to do about it, Murphy told the Washington Examiner. Murphy advised the late Senator John McCain, Republican Arizona, when he ran for president in 2000. How did that work out? And oversaw former Florida Governor Jeb Bush's super PAC when he sought the White House 4 years ago. How did that work out? He recognizes the difficulty in battling an incumbent or party favorite who enjoys broad support of Republican voters. So Murphy is breaking with some of his colleagues and eschewing the top-down strategy that relies on finding primary challenger first. Instead, he is pursuing what he dubs a Paul Revere project, The blueprint calls for consistent strategic communications that target approximately 10,000 to 13,000 GOP activists that populate the state and local branches of the party nationwide, with information about Trump's unique political vulnerabilities. If grassroots unrest can be fomented from the ground up, Murphy believes conditions for a viable primary challenge might develop. Defending Democracy Together, a group run by conservative journalist, here we go, remember this guy, Bill Kristol, believes there already exists an appetite among GOP voters for a change atop the party, if only a strong candidate would exploit it. The group, armed with polling and focus group data it commissioned specifically for this pitch, has held discussions with Hogan, and it claims other potentially interested prominent Republicans it is declining to name. Well, there you have it. The Never-Trumpers are still going, and they're still trying to wreck the President of the United States, and by doing so, allowing the Democrats to win the presidency. Why would they do that? Why would they sacrifice America just to remove a president they don't like? Could it be that there's more at play? Could it be that their activities are not conducive with the party they represent? Just saying. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it, that if the majority of people voted for the President of the United States as is, why don't they support him? Why don't they challenge the next candidate in 2024 rather than attack this one? What are they so scared about that he can find out in those 4 more years? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And that's my comment for today. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ DB, News Talk Radio. Join us and many others, and you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.